All right, so here is a video as I walk my way through solving each of these equations. So if you had some trouble with the review, or there was a problem in particular that you were having trouble with, feel free to jump ahead, jump to whichever problem you need to see. If you need to see them all just to double check your work, awesome, that's totally fine. Use it however you need to make sure that you're confident in how to solve each of these and to make sure you know what needs to be shown for each of these problems. So first ones are our one-step equations. Okay, so this is where only one thing happened to our variable, so we just need to undo that one step. So I always like to start with drawing my line down through my equal sign. I focus on the variable y. What did they do to y? Well, they subtracted 7. So the opposite of subtracting is to add 7. So I'm going to add 7 to both sides. Adding and subtracting 7 becomes 0. They cancel each other out, so I'm left with y. Negative 14 plus 7 is negative 7. Always make sure to go back and do that check. The check is go back to the original equation, but put your number in place of the variable. So instead of y, put in negative 7. So negative 7 minus 7. Well, subtracting and negatives don't get along, so I'm going to make it adding the opposite. Negative 7 plus negative 7 is negative 14. That's what I wanted as my answer. That's what I was supposed to get. So I know I did it correctly. Next one, negative 63 is equal to negative 7x. Now, some of us sometimes think that negative in front of the 7 is actually a subtraction. Well, remember, subtraction is always in between two numbers. Since this is just in front of the 7, we know it's going to be a negative. So what did they do to x? Well, negative 7x means negative 7 times x. So I want to do the opposite, which is going to be to divide by negative 7. Negative 7 divided by negative 7 is 1x, or just x. Negative 63 divided by negative 7 is 9. Again, to do a quick check, go back to the original problem, negative 7x, but instead of x, put in what x is equal to. Put in the 9. Well, negative 7 times 9 is negative 63. That's what I wanted, so I know I did it correctly. All right, next one. Sometimes people see this one and think, oh, this is one of those fraction ones. Well, it looks like a fraction, but remember, when the variable's in the numerator and it's over another number, that really just code for divide, okay? So this is really just z divided by 4. Well, the opposite of dividing is going to be to multiply. So I'm going to multiply by 4, but remember to always show it on both sides of your equation, okay? You've got to keep things balanced. Multiplying by 4 and dividing by 4, think of them kind of like fractions. If I have a 4 in the numerator and denominator, they divide out and turn to 1s. So I'm just left with z. 4 times negative 8 is negative 32. To do our check, put in negative 32 in place of z. So negative 32 over 4. Well, over 4 means divided by 4. Negative 32 divided by 4 is negative 8. That's what I wanted, so I know I did it correctly. All right, next one, I'm going to try to scroll down here. And again, feel free to jump around in the video and just listen to the ones that you need or the ones that you had some trouble with. So next one, this one is one of our fraction ones because there's a whole fraction in front of my variable. But again, focus on the variable. What did they do to w? Well, they multiplied times 1/6. So normally the opposite of multiplying would be to divide, but remember we can't divide by fractions. So the alternative is we want to multiply by its reciprocal. So again, focus on the fraction with the variable. 1/6, the reciprocal is 6 over 1. But I've got to do the same thing on both sides. I got to treat both sides equally. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 6 over 1. Notice the 2 over 3, that doesn't get flipped over. That fraction stays the same. I'm just multiplying it by the reciprocal of the other fraction. We do that because notice the 6's and the 6 divide out, the 1 and the 1 divide out, everything turns to 1's, and I'm just left with w. On the left-hand side, 6 times 2 is 12, 1 times 3 is 3, 12 over 3 is really just 4, so w equals 4. To do your check, just like all the rest, go back to the original problem, 1/6 times W, but instead of W, W is equal to 4. So I put in 4. Go ahead and multiply. Again, if you're comfortable with your cross simplifying first and then doing your multiplication, go for it. But I know not everybody's comfortable with it, so I want to show you how to just multiply it out and divide and simplify at the end if you need to. So 1 times 4 is 4. 6 times 1 is 6. 4 and 6 can both be divided by 2 and simplifies to be 2/3. That's what we wanted, so we know we did it correctly. All right, down to our bottom two. Let me see if I can scroll down here. All right, so these are our two-step equations, meaning we need to undo two things that happen to the variable. Remember, start with the adding or subtracting first, then we get to the multiplying or dividing second. But we always start with undoing the adding or subtracting in these equations. Again, focus on your variable, 2x plus 6. So they're multiplying by 2 and adding 6. To solve it, I want to undo the adding and subtracting first. So they added 6, so the opposite is to subtract 6. Adding 6 and subtracting 6 cancel out, they turn to 0, so we're just left with 2x. 16 minus 6 is 10. Now I do my next step. Now I take care of the multiplying or dividing. Well, in this case, 2x means 2 times x, so I want to divide by 2, but I'm going to do the same thing on both sides to keep it balanced. 2 divided by 2 is really just 1, or x. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So I undid the adding or subtracting first. The 2x just slides down. Make sure you rewrote that. Now take care of the multiplying by using division. To do our check, go back to the original problem. 2 times x plus 6. And in place of x, put in what we got for our answer. 2 times 5 is 10. 10 plus 6 is 16. That's what we wanted the equation to equal, so we know we did it correctly. All right, last one. Hopefully you're getting the hang of things, but if not, pay close attention. So again, in our two-step equations, we always take care of the adding or subtracting first. In this case, they subtracted 7, so I'm going to add 7. Adding 7 and subtracting 7 cancel out, they turn to 0. So I'm just left with m over 5. Negative 3 plus 7 is positive 4. Now I come back for step 2. M over 5 means m divided by 5. So I want to do the opposite. I want to multiply by 5. So I'm going to do that on both sides. Multiplying and dividing by 5 cancel each other out. Things like fractions, one's in the numerator, one's in the denominator. So they just divide out to be ones, and I'm left with m. 4 times 5 is 20. Do my check, go back to the original problem, but instead of m, put in what m is equal to. Well, 20 divided by 5 is 4, minus 7. Well, that's the same thing as adding a negative 7. 4 plus negative 7 is negative 3. That's what we wanted, so we know we did it correctly. All right, hope that makes sense. Hope that kind of clears up any confusion if you were stuck on a problem. Double check their work, make sure you showed it all, and you are good to go.